Well, it's no Kill Bill, but it'll do. Welcome to Media Spectrum. I'm your host Daniel, and today we will be talking about They Will Kill You. So this was a movie that came out back in March. It was directed by Kirill Sokolov. Sorry if I'm butchering that. And starring Zazie Beetz. And that was honestly one of the big selling points to me for this movie, potentially. I like Zazie Beetz a lot as an actress. I've seen her in a few different projects, like Joker, for example, where she's pretty much always been a supporting actress in everything I've seen her in. So it was nice to see her get more of a leading actress shot in this film. And she does well enough in this. This is not really a movie that's going to really test or showcase someone's acting abilities. If anything, this is a showcase for her as an action star. She has a lot of big fight scenes in this where she holds herself very, very well. But basically what this is Zazie Beetz is this like maid who shows up at this really fancy hotel in downtown New York and quickly finds some highly sketchy stuff is afoot. I don't remember exactly how much the marketing revealed on this, so I don't want to say too much. But this is basically, it's kind of a Kill Bill situation, almost a bit of a Die Hard setup, in that she basically has to kill her way through this building full of evil rich people. There's a reason why motivating her, there's a reason why motivating them, but I don't want to spoil that because this is kind of fun, especially if you don't know what you're getting in. And that's what I would recommend the most, is because I had seen some reviews of this earlier, I had seen some trailers, I knew a bit more about just what was going to happen. But if you go into this just knowing very basically this is going to be a dumb, fun, over the top, extreme action horror thriller type movie, very Tarantino flavored, very Sam Raimi flavored. If that kind of thing sounds appealing to you, then yeah, just watch this. It's on HBO Max and try to go into it as unspoiled as possible. But basically, you have this hotel ran by this group of rich Satanists who do a sacrifice every year, and I won't say anything more than that. And you have a few memorable names there. You've got Heather Graham, you've got Patricia Arquette. Always fun to see Malfoy showing up and something still being a hateable little dickhead. He's just so good at that character.
Saint Potter.
And like I said, Zazie Beetz is the main maid who comes here and unwittingly is going to be the sacrifice for the night. But instead, she fights her way through, and she has an extra personal motivation. And I will say, as far as positives of the movie goes, the opening of this movie is really strong. The opening of this movie has a sequence that I'm not going to spoil at all, but it tells us a whole lot about our main character in a brief amount of time. It gives a lot of context for how she might be kind of on, how she's already had kind of an extreme life. And she gets put into a very difficult survival position where in a split second, you really don't have any time to think about it, just go on your gut instinct choice. She chose to save herself instead of potentially trying to save someone else. And it's really interesting because it paints her as someone who's a little morally suspect right from the beginning. We don't even know if she's necessarily going to be a good person or not. And it also gives a lot of context for her being someone who would be more of a fighter than most. It also sets up a pretty extreme tone for the movie right away. And that's one of the important things to know about this movie. This is not a movie to take seriously or try to dissect or try to analyze the way I often do. There is some stuff in here about family connections and whatnot, but it's very flimsy. The story is basically just an excuse to connect all these crazy big action sequences together. Now, I will say I like the way the story's structured. There's something really cool about how there's all these flashbacks it keeps going to, so you're never on one story track for all that long. And it's only about a 90-minute movie, so it moves pretty quickly. And this is a movie that's very, very gory, but in a very fun, kind of cartoonish, over-the-top way. To me, there's fun gore in movies, and there's sadistic gore. Sadistic gore would be something like Hostel or Saw, something where it's really trying to make you feel it and disgust you in a visceral way. This is something more like Kill Bill, something more like classic kung fu movies where it's meant to be just ridiculous, over the top, live action cartoon fun. This is a movie where limbs are flying and you shoot someone in the head and their whole head explodes and there's just geysers of blood shooting off all the time. It's insane, it's ridiculous. If that's the kind of movie that appeals to you, you will probably enjoy this. For me, the biggest flaw in this movie is the writing. Overall, it's fairly flimsy. There are some clever little twists and turns here and there, but it's a very predictable movie. If you're familiar with this kind of thing, you can pretty much predict beat from beat what's going to happen. The big twists are really not that shocking. I will say they do go much bigger in the third act than I thought they would have, but I don't think that's necessarily a positive thing. Because without really spoiling it, the third act, or at least the last like 20 minutes, goes to such an extreme over-the-top place that's heavily relying on CGI, and that's where the movie's at its weakest. It does have a lot of really good practical effects throughout. That's a big part of what makes all these huge action scenes where Zazie Beetz is fighting off like 15 to 20 guys with a flaming axe really, really fun, because it's incredibly practical. But when it comes to the CGI, you can tell that it's not the most high-end CGI out there. And especially there's kind of a prolonged theme that needs it in the third act, where I question if they had just restrained themselves a little bit, redesigned a couple things that could have been done in a more practical element, if it would have been a much stronger ending. As it is, I like most of the movie, but the ending does just kind of lose me because it goes so far off the rails. So, in conclusion, this is kind of a brief review because this is not a movie that's meant to be analyzed or dug into all that deeply. And I don't think every movie should be that experience. Obviously, I personally like really digging into something. But sometimes you do just want to turn your brain off and have some dumb, bloody fun. If you're someone who enjoyed Kill Bill, if you liked Send Help earlier this year, you like some of that Sam Raimi comedic energy, if you just want 90 minutes of a very pretty lady chopping up a bunch of rich evil people in all kinds of creative, fun ways, you'll probably really, really enjoy this movie. Just don't expect that much. It's not as inventive as something as Kill Bill. It's not as original. Like I said, the writing and characters are kind of weak. I do wish that Zazie Beetz had something a little bit stronger to dig her teeth into, but she looks like she's having a lot of fun, and hopefully this leads to some more leading roles for her. So anyway, those are my thoughts on this movie. I'll see you guys next week. Until then, stay sane, stay human.